Good morning. Welcome to the United States Sports Academy and our weekly sports talk program. With me today is Dr. Brett Simmermacher, our chair of sports coaching, and Mr. Ben Billman, one of our doctoral teaching assistants. I must admit that I'm surrounded by Big Ten folks here this morning, so I'll try my best to uphold the honor of the two best conferences in the country, the ACC and the SEC. And I'm sure these guys will argue with that.
Well, all we need to do is look at the first 7 rankings right now, and where are 4 of those teams from, Ben?
The Big Ten.
The Big Ten.
Yeah.
Before we get started, the Sports Academy wants to send our thoughts and prayers to the families of the folks that died in that horrible plane crash in Colombia yesterday. You know, in the world of sports, all they talked about was a soccer team, and
Right.
they lost a large portion of that soccer team, but there also were 71 people on the airplane, so there was a lot more than a soccer team that lost their life. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of those Brazilian people who crashed on a mountainside in Colombia. Actually, 3 of the soccer players survived.
And also the 3 people that died in Gatlinburg with the fires.
Fires are horrible up there. I saw something. I think it was in Gatlinburg where they would have to get 3 inches of rain like every day for 3 weeks just to be able to come off of the severe drought status. So you know, the good thing about sports is it gives us kind of a refuge from the real world and gives us an outlet to have fun each and every week, watching people playing games and watching people play games. So that's what we like to talk about here. Last night they came out with the latest college football playoff bowl. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington are now the top 4. Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Colorado are the next 4. I think realistically that's as far as we need to go. I added Auburn and Florida on here as 14 to 15 because the SEC, the Sugar Bowl criteria is very clear. The highest ranked team that's not in the playoff goes to the Sugar Bowl. And right now Auburn is 14 and Florida's 15. So Auburn's in line to go to the Sugar Bowl. But I'm pretty sure that if somehow Florida upset Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, in the SEC championship game, that Florida would jump Auburn and go to the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
I think Alabama would still go to the championship, and that's another argument we can have. And Western Michigan's at 17 and Navy's at 19. The reason that's significant is the highest ranked conference champion from the group of 5 goes to the Cotton Bowl this year. It kind of rotates, but this year it's the Cotton Bowl. So right now, as it stands, it's Western Michigan at 17 and Navy at 19. They both have championship games this week. I also heard that if Navy, if they were 17 and 18, and you know, either way, say if Navy had a great game and Western Michigan just barely beat Ohio, they may not announce who's going to the Cotton Bowl until after Navy plays Army, because they made that announcement last week. I think if Western Michigan wins, they should stay ahead of Navy because Navy does have 2 losses, and Western Michigan is one of only 2 undefeated teams in Division I with Alabama. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 official championship games this week, and even though it's not labeled as the Big 12 championship game, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State basically are playing for the Big 12 championship because Oklahoma's undefeated in the conference. Oklahoma's the only team with Oklahoma State's the only team with 1 loss, and if Oklahoma State would win, they'd both be 8-1 in the Big 12, and the first tiebreaker is head-to-head competition. So that's kind of a de facto championship game there. I think, is it next year that the Big 12 is having a championship game? So that'll help. They tried to do it this year because you notice Baylor and West Virginia are also playing this weekend. So I think in their scheduling they tried to schedule 2 big games that last week because I think what really killed them before was not having any. You know, TCU played, was it Iowa State?
Somebody down the line.
Beat them 59-3 and fell from 3 to 6 in the final poll. So I think they tried to get good matchups on that last stage to give people, probably hoping, in Big 12's dream that Baylor and West Virginia would both be 11-0 right now and playing on championship Saturday and going out. So before we start talking about what could happen, let's go ahead and make our predictions for the championship games. And on your sheet there, they're in the order that they're being played. The first two are actually being played on Friday night. First one is Western Michigan and Ohio for the MAC championship. Who do you like there, Brett?
I think Western Michigan's proven that they probably are the elite team in the MAC, and I don't see Ohio beating them. That's why you play them all, but I think Western Michigan's just too strong, that wide receiver they have, and their quarterback's playing very well. So they got a great defense, too. So
Randy Moss said that wide receiver is legitimate first-round draft pick. That's good enough for me.
I believe it.
Yeah, he's the real deal. You like Western Michigan?
Yeah, PJ Fleck's done a phenomenal job there at head coach. And I love seeing these small schools go undefeated. And if they make the Cotton Bowl, I think they have a good chance to win over whoever they play.
Yeah, somebody said today, we were having a little celebration for Robin's birthday. Somebody said, well, what Michigan would kill Western Michigan? And my response was, yeah, just like Alabama killed Utah, Oklahoma killed Boise State.
Yeah.
You know, that for those guys, and
that's the game.
One of the excuses they make, maybe it's not an excuse, maybe it's a reason. I think it's an excuse, but one of the things they always talk about is like Alabama, Oklahoma, those guys they don't care about being in the Cotton Bowl because they're not going to the championship. And for these guys, it's the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, was Urban Meyer still at Utah when they beat Alabama? Or was that the guy after? I think it was the guy after him. Anyway, Utah just, the score ended up being kind of close because Alabama scored late, but they really dominated the whole game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the famous finish of the Boise State Oklahoma game. That was pretty awesome.
Yes.
Okay, also Friday night we have Colorado and Washington playing for the Pac-12 championship. Colorado at number 8, Washington at number 4.
I think Washington will beat Colorado, but Colorado's playing well. But I just think Washington's going to be too strong. They got too much to play for, and they're going to beat Colorado.
They've already beaten them once.
I'm going with Colorado. I think the Buffaloes are hot right now, and they've lost 2 games, but they're playing well at the right time. And I think Washington is a little bit overrated. They've had a fairly easy schedule. They've played some tougher opponents late in this season, but I am both picking Colorado. I want them to win too because I want to see a little bit of chaos at the top.
Yeah, that could cause some chaos. Washington's non-conference schedule is ugly, to say the least. They played Portland State,
Rutgers, Idaho, I think was in there.
Yeah. It was pretty bad. And but the one thing about the Pac-12 that I think is a positive is they play everybody. Or now they don't play everybody. They play 9 conference games, which is what some of the other conferences need to do. Okay, and then on Saturday we have Temple and Navy for the American Athletic Championship. Who do you like there, Ben?
I'm going to go with Navy, but I don't think they're going to have enough to jump Western Michigan.
Okay.
Same. I think, the offense that they run, a lot of teams don't see that. I mean, Temple's seen it because they're in the conference with them, but I just think they're too strong and they run it too well.
Yeah, they run it really well. Usually at this point of the season we could say that Navy beat Notre Dame and that'd be something significant, but this year it doesn't really mean right. And that's one of the things that when you talk about, we can't use this rationale for Washington because their non-conference schedule is ugly. But a lot of times when you talk about non-conference schedules, they say the record of their non-conference schedules is 3 games below 500 or whatever. You can't fault a team for scheduling somebody like Notre Dame because these schedules are made 4 or 5 years in advance. Just like Texas. If somebody played Notre Dame and Texas this year, and somebody says they had an easy non-conference schedule, that would be a really stupid statement.
Right.
Because when they scheduled Notre Dame, I'll bet anybody $100 right now that in 2050 in the preseason top 25, Notre Dame and Texas will both be in there.
Probably.
I always make the statement, I can probably do the top 25 for 20 years from now and get 23 of them correct. Because so you can't do that. I guess I should throw mine in here. I'm picking Western Michigan, Washington, and Navy. So kind of in agreement with you guys except for the Pac-12 championship game. And then we have they call it Mayhem, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma.
Bedlam.
Huh?
Bedlam.
Bedlam, that's it, Bedlam. In Norman, Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship. Who do you guys like there? Ben?
Oklahoma. They've been playing really well since their early stumbles against Houston and Ohio State. I think they finish undefeated in the Big 12, 9-0.
I agree. I think Oklahoma's played very well after Ohio State went out to their yard and took care of them pretty handily. I just think they're going to beat Oklahoma State.
Baker Mayfield's playing great.
Yeah.
You know, he could be. He's not going to win the Heisman Trophy, but he could be one of the people sitting in New York watching the ceremony. One of the pundits last night, I think it was Joey Galloway. It may have been Kirk Herbstreit, talked about if Washington gets in and Oklahoma doesn't, then the committee has sent a message to people like Oklahoma: you don't need to play Ohio State and Houston. You need to play Portland State and Idaho before in your non-conference games. And you know and the point was, if Oklahoma had played 2 easy games and they'd be sitting here now at 11-0, there's no doubt in my mind they'd be in that top 4 because we mentioned Notre Dame and Texas a couple minutes ago. Oklahoma's not one of those magical names.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about this yesterday in Ben's office. There are teams out there that if they go undefeated, Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, Florida State, probably Florida even. If those teams go undefeated, it doesn't matter who they play. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Sure.
And you know, one of the things we brought up yesterday, how awesome would it be next year if USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Florida State, they play each other, but one of the AC teams. How great would it be to have 6 12-0 teams and see how they pick 4 out of that mess. The other championship game, I'll actually be at this game, Alabama versus Florida in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Do we need to make our predictions on that one, or do we just pick a score?
Yeah.
I think it's significant for us Auburn fans because, like I said before, if Alabama wins as expected, Auburn has a really good chance to go to the Sugar Bowl. If not, they'll go to Sarah's Bowl in Tampa, probably. Then Saturday night we have Clemson and Virginia Tech for the ACC championship. Who do you like there?
I'm going to go with Clemson, but I could see Virginia Tech winning the game, just because Clemson's they're playing better now, but they didn't play so well middle of the season. But all these teams have had some laws throughout the even Alabama has had some laws throughout the season. But I do think eventually Clemson's going to wear them down and win the game.
Yeah, you're right. Middle of the season, North Carolina State and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh beat them. NC State missed a 25-yard field goal to win the game.
From right
Clemson should not even be in here right now.
Right.
But they got very fortunate. I think they beat Virginia Tech, but they've had some sloppy games recently.
That goes back to that old saying: "I'd rather be lucky than good."
Yeah.
Even Ohio State, Michigan State missed a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
With a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
So they've all had their moments, except for even Alabama's only beat LSU 10-0. Yeah, and didn't score for the first 3 quarters. Of course, the myopic people down here will talk about the awesome SEC defenses. We all know it's the horrible SEC quarterbacking. And then the final game is Wisconsin versus Penn State for the Big Ten championship.
I'm going with the Badgers in that one. It's going to be close, but Wisconsin has played a tough schedule. They only lost to Ohio State by 7. They lost to Michigan by 7. They're one of those teams that they did beat LSU. They beat Nebraska. I give the slight edge to Wisconsin, but Penn State's been one of the hottest teams in the country, and they probably have, like we discussed yesterday, the best win of any team in the country when they beat Ohio State. That's probably the best win of anybody.
And if they win, they'll have beaten number 2 and number 6. Nobody else can say that. Who do you like?
I like Wisconsin, the Badgers as well, only because I think Barkley's not going to be 100%. I know he went out injured last week, and I think he's one of the better backs in the country. And if he's injured or tries to play injured and gets even injured more during that game, it's only going to benefit Wisconsin, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I just see, like you said, Ben, they beat LSU. They hung right in there with Michigan and Ohio State, and I think that's why they're ranked ahead of Penn State right now because of that reason.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Final Four. I want you to tell me who your Final Four is based on if all your predictions are correct.
If all my predictions are correct, I think it's going to be Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Wisconsin.
Okay. Ben?
Okay. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Michigan.
Okay. Alabama, Clemson, Washington, Penn State.
Wow, no Ohio State.
No Ohio State.
Wow.
If Penn State wins and they put Ohio State in and not Penn State, the FBI should be waiting for the guy to come out the door and prosecute him for fraud. Because all year long, every time I see the advertisements for these football games, every game counts. That's bull. If there is no logical way that you can say Penn State is not better than Ohio State because they played and Penn State won.
Okay, but how about this then? Michigan's 5. If Penn State wins, how do they jump Michigan? Because Michigan beat Penn State 49-10.
Because they're the Big Ten champions.
So the head-to-head doesn't matter in that case.
The head-to-head should matter, but Michigan, they both have 2 losses. Ohio State only has 1 loss. So I see your point.
As much as I hate to say it, it all comes down to one thing, gentlemen: money.
Revenue.
Ohio State is going to bring a crowd.
Yes.
If they play in China, it doesn't matter where they play. They're gonna bring a crowd, and it's all about money. And that's all the NCAA cares about. That's all the FBS cares about. So
Yeah.
Ohio State is not going to leave the number 2 spot.
No.
1 and 2 is a lock right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And if they are, then the whole thing has been a fraud.
It is. It's a flawed system.
Because I wanted to throw something to my television so bad last night because all these people were saying, well, Ohio State is clearly better than Penn State. Okay, if Ohio State is clearly better than Penn State, why do we play football games? Penn State beat Ohio State. Under that logic, so explain this to me. If my Final Four, if Washington beats Alabama in the semifinals, who should play in the championship game, Washington or Alabama?
Washington.
Why? Alabama's clearly better. Then why? Just because Washington beat them? Why does that matter?
So you're saying Penn State's going to beat Wisconsin?
I'm picking Penn State. I think Ohio State's going to be in the
Right.
Final Four, but I think if Penn State wins and if Penn State wins and Washington loses, I can see them putting Penn State and Ohio State.
I can see that as well.
But I think if Washington wins, Clemson wins, Alabama, I don't think it matters. I think Florida could beat Alabama 55 to nothing,
and they're in.
Alabama would still.
They're still not going to come up to number 1.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they'll stay number 1 no matter what.
But if Alabama, Clemson, and Washington win, and Penn State wins, and they put Alabama ahead of Penn State, then I don't see why we even have a season. Just at the beginning of the season, say, okay, Alabama, Ohio State. If you guys only lose 1 game, you go to the Final Four, no matter what.
Yeah.
Just think about this: they didn't even win their division. They didn't even win half of the Big Ten, and everybody's saying they're a lock for number 2. I think they probably are a lot for number 2, but I think it just makes the whole season meaningless when they played Penn State. Penn State beat them and won the conference championship. Ohio State didn't even win their division. They did the same thing with Alabama a few years ago when it was only 2 teams. Alabama didn't even win the Western Division of the SEC, and LSU beat them during the regular season, and they gave Alabama a chance to come back and play LSU in the championship game. But I don't see how anybody with any integrity at all could put Penn State, could put Ohio State in and not put Penn State in if they beat Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin. I think it's a toss-up. Let's put it this way: it's a game I'm not going to bet on.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea who's going to win.
I think the way the rankings are right now, it kind of tells you that there could possibly be 2 teams from the Big Ten.
I think Michigan is that second team though. They beat 6, they beat 7, and they beat 8. And if any of those 3 teams jump Michigan,
Then they're going to have a
then that's
complaint.
that's a huge controversy because if we're gonna stick with head to head, they beat 6, 7, and 8, and they only lost in double overtime at Ohio State.
Boy,
I mean, Michigan has to be that next team in if Clemson or Washington falls.
and
I think.
what if Michigan gets in at 4, Ohio State gets in at 2, 2 plays 3, 1 plays 4, Michigan and Ohio State both win.
That would be.
It doesn't matter.
The game part 2.
The semifinals don't matter. Alabama and Ohio State will be the championship. Because head to head doesn't matter anymore.
That's true.
It doesn't matter that you played during the season and got beat.
That's why this system's flawed.
Well, I think I understand your argument. With Penn State, though, they lost to Pittsburgh, so we have to keep that in consideration. That was not a bad loss, but it wasn't a good loss. And then they also
But
got
they also beat Clemson.
yeah. But you also look, and they got crushed by Michigan, and I think that's key because if they would have played close against Michigan, then I can understand your argument a little more. But since they have 2 losses, and both of them were pretty crushing defeats, that's the only reason I can understand Ohio State over Penn State.
Okay. You're wrong, but I respect your opinion.
Karen,
I'm just glad we're discussing all Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
That by itself is a win. So
It is, because remember, what was it, 2 years ago, about the 3rd or 4th, maybe 2nd or 3rd poll, there was 3 SEC West teams in the top 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, of course, we found out how good they really were down the stretch. All right, so you guys picked your Final 4. Tell me who you like to win it all.
Well, I like my Buckeyes to win it all.
I gotta go with Alabama. They looked unbelievable all season.
I'm gonna go with Clemson. I think it's gonna be Clemson Alabama rematch in the championship game, and I think the outcome's gonna be a little. I think Clemson outplayed them last year. To be honest with you, you know they had the 100-yard kickoff return and the onside kick recovery. That I mean, great calls by Saban to try that onside kick, but I think Alabama's the best team, but I think Clemson can give them a game. All year long, everybody was saying that the team that had the best chance of beating was Louisville, and we saw what happened there.
Yep.
Well, it'll be exciting. The next time we talk to you, we're going to have Coach Mike Godfrey with us. Longtime college football coach, coached at Pitt and a few other places, and then spent 15 years?
18.
18 years as a color analyst on ESPN. Did a great job with those folks, and he's going to come in, and by then we'll know who the final 4 teams really are.
what about your local picks? Do you think South Alabama will win this Saturday to get bowl eligible?
I don't know. You know, South Alabama, they're a 14-point favorite.
I think they'll beat New Mexico.
New Mexico
Yeah.
State.
Yeah, I think so too.
Become bowl eligible.
Yeah.
You know, that all season long they tended to play better when they were underdogs
Yeah.
than they did with. They're 1-5 in conference,
I know.
and 5 and 6 overall.
Mhm.
They beat San Diego State when they were ranked number 19 in the country. They beat Mississippi State at Starkville,
Mhm.
and then they lose home games to Louisiana Lafayette.
I wish Coach Jones was back. I'd ask him why in the heck would the Sun Belt allow Idaho and New Mexico State in the Sun Belt just for football?
Yeah,
Moscow, Idaho, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
it sounds kind of oxymoronic to put Idaho and Sun Belt in the same,
Yeah, that's true.
same sentence.
It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy the championship games this week. Some good football. Next week, Coach Godfrey and the 3 of us will sit here and talk about the Final 4.
And send
And-
questions.
And
Questions.
and we'll have it open for your questions. If you have any questions for Coach Godfrey, you can just type them in, and Sarah will ask Coach for his response. And I'll try to be not still really pissed off that they chose Ohio State over Penn State. by the time we get to next Wednesday, but we hope everybody has a great week in sports, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time from the Daphne, Alabama campus of the United States Sports Academy. Have a great week in sports.